Hi everyone, this is Finnabair here and welcome to my studio. Today I'm showing you a video where you can see how you can use different kinds of mold-made elements together on one project. This is rather simple composition, but there are multiple elements used, so I hope you're going to get inspired, and this is going to be good information for all of the people who would like to make more of the dimensional projects in the future. This time I decided to use round HDF panel, which I painted with 2 coats of white heavy gesso from my Art Basics collection I made for Prima as a start. And then we could start building our textures and using elements on the top. I wanted to add extra dimension to the background, so my choice was Art Basics modeling paste and one of the stencils from my Finnabair collection for Prima. This is a very nice beginning for almost every kind of project. To start, you simply need to take a palette knife or silicone brush and apply the modeling paste through the stencil. It's going to dry white, flexible, and it is really sticky, so you can use it for gluing your elements as well. If you want to avoid smudging and ruining your details, you can dry first part of the design and then continue on the other parts, overlapping with the stencil. It makes it much easier. When I had my design ready, I could focus on building my basic composition, and I could use the leftovers of the modeling paste for gluing down the elements. The first one was the large rectangle Baroque frame from the set called Baroque frames, and it was just placed at the top of the composition as a start. I prepared a wide selection of elements from my latest mold release. The main glue I'm going to use is in fact heavy body gel, very sticky and very thick transparent gel medium, and I will be using elements to just create dimensional composition based on different shapes such as wings, chains, hearts, to create a really eye-catching and a little bit fairy tale composition. The molds I include in the set, they are pieces of Underworld, Baroque frames, Nocturnal insects, Steampunk hearts, and a little bit more of the other ones. I just wanted to show you that these sets really go nicely together and your imagination is the limit. I really love mixing and matching, so I keep taking elements from different sets and different groups of embellishments as well, and building really unique designs. So this way your project is always different, always fresh, and you can create your very unique style as well. So I started off with adding the fairy wings, which are taken from Nocturnal insect set, and I'm planning to combine it with the Steampunk heart, which has a lot of details on the top. You can easily stack one mold on the top of another. This is part of the plan behind the design, so I think you can really build interesting structures and compositions. To level up the composition a little bit and to fill the empty spaces, I use very simple solutions such as cardboard or any other distance elements, for example 3D foam. This is also going to work pretty well. I just glue everything using heavy body gel from Art Basics collection, and I make sure everything is pressed down nicely so it stays in place. Next, I'm looking for the nice way of adding different chains from pieces of Underworld set, and I try to make the chains a little bit different from each other, so not the same length and of course different designs mixed in one place. During the gluing process, when I have a little bit too much of the gel medium visible, I just pick it up with the brush and I make sure the brush is sitting in water so it doesn't dry completely and die on me when I'm still working. My next elements are also little pocket watches from the set called Pocket Watches, and I picked one or two to add extra nice detail to the composition. They're going to be hanging down from the frame and on the bottom of the chains. All of the elements I'm using, they're made with fast drying resin. I made a long video live stream on all of the things that you can use in your molds, so I highly recommend watching it if you're interested a little bit more in casting and creating your own mold-based elements. When it comes to fast-drying resin, there are many brands on the market and it may be easier to use the one which is popular locally. So it would be good to check with your fellow art friends what brand they prefer to use. But in general, fast casting resin is very user-friendly and very nice product to use because the details of the mold elements are absolutely beautiful and you can have them ready in about 20 minutes. In the meantime, the composition is growing and getting more dimensional. I keep adding elements, for example, the moth on the top of the chains, a pocket watch, and on the top of the steampunk heart, I added the metal cog from my mechanicals and a clock face. Again, imagination is the limit. Try to think which elements are going to be eye-catching and are going to add nice detail, and make sure you glue them properly in place. Once I'm done with the larger elements, I keep looking for the smaller details to fill the composition and to make it balanced. For example, it may be a small moth or a screw head or some interesting eye-catching detail. Usually I start with the large things and I go to the smaller ones. On some point I decided I want to go a little bit more feminine and nature-orientated in my project, so I added a metal flower and some leaves on the bottom of the heart as well. I think it looks just perfect. After that, it's time for drying with the heat gun, and I do dry it for quite a while until everything is absolutely dry and the elements are not moving. When the elements are dry and ready, I can start priming them with white gesso. This is going to prepare the surface for painting or adding the wax, and because resin is really similar to plastic and very slippery, adding gesso is a very important step. I'm using Art Basics Heavy White Gesso, the same one I used for the base of the composition, and I dry everything with the heat gun to make sure gesso is completely dry before painting. With the dry gesso, we can start talking about paints. My choice will be the colors in the shades of pink and red. So my suggestion is to take several colors which are matching your idea. Take a water bottle and a medium-sized brush. I took metallic paints in the colors of Coral Reef and Spring Blossom to start with, and I added them on the top of the slightly sprayed background. This way they act almost like watercolors. I started my painting with the lighter tone, so this Spring Blossom, and then I went to the Coral Reef, which was darker and more saturated color. This way I could control the situation, and it was easier for me to make the colors drip and to choose where I have more of the darker tones and where I'm going to have the lighter ones. After drying, acrylic paints are permanent, so I highly recommend drying your project a lot between steps, so you're going to avoid mud and some unexpected situations. And of course it takes some time, but this way you may be sure that whatever you already like on your project, it's going to stay painted. I continue my work adding water and delicate drips of the paint and a little bit of the touches on the brush, and this way I have my background mostly painted. Then I go for the red wine red tone from the Metallics collection from Art Alchemy I made with Prima, and I add a little bit of this darker red, especially on the mechanical heart. My plan is to have quite monochromatic composition as the result, so I'm not going for any contrasting colors yet. This is going to be mostly in the shades of coral, pink and red. I always have a bit of a baby wipe or the kitchen towel on hand so I can pick up the excess of the paint if I have too much. This technique of painting requires a lot of water, so it is very, very wet and the paint is dripping a lot. So it's just good to have some of the paper towels on hand and just remove every time when you feel it is too much. When I'm quite happy with the result, I dry everything again to make my paints permanent. Now I would like to add some vintage touches, and this time I'm going for liquid acrylics, burnt sienna, which is transparent brown shade, beautiful paint which is very similar to tea stain color, and it is perfect for any kind of vintage touch on your project or when you would like to get a bit of the rusty tone in there. I use the paint in a very similar way, using a lot of water and applying the paint with a small brush. I try to go mostly in the places where we would expect a little bit of the darker shadows or where we have metal elements, so they're going to pretend they're getting a little bit rusty. Once I'm happy with the painting, I dry everything again, and now I would like to add some shimmering touches, some lovely crystal details. I take my heavy body gel again and I use it to add crystal art pebbles. They are beautiful diamond cut pebbles that you can add to almost any kind of a project. I add them at the top and on the bottom of the composition, trying to add a little bit of the sparkle, but also I try to balance the whole composition using them. So I try to place them in the parts where I feel there's a little bit of a detail missing. When adding the finishing touches, it's important to remember about visual balance and to spread this kind of details evenly. So if you put a little bit on the left, you should probably put a little bit on the right, and this way it's really hard to go wrong. At this stage of the work, you can see the composition looks really magical. We have a mechanical flying heart, we've got beautiful chains and details, so everything looks like taken from the fairy tale. What I'm missing though is a little bit of a contrast, but it is very easy to create this effect. For this step, my product of choice is white pearl metallic wax. Wax is usually the finishing product and it doesn't really like water, so you can rub it on the details to highlight the beautiful dimension and shapes, and this way the whole composition is going to pop and it's going to look even more dimensional. I mostly use my fingers for application, but if you prefer using brush, remember to just touch the tops of the dimensional parts, don't go too deep. You want to create the effect that there's a glistening detail on the petals or on the beautiful dragonfly wings. This way it's going to be really life looking and really dimensional and beautiful. The whole project is basically ready, but I felt I wanted to add a bit of the grungy touch to it as well, so I took Rust Effect paste. This is one of the 3 jars from the set. This is called Red Rust, and I'm going to apply it with a really small brush and a bit of water. Rust Effect paste is imitation of the rust effect, and you can use it like texture paint, but you have to remember it dries completely matte and it gets a little bit darker. So don't use too much because it's really going to be visible effect. I keep adding the Rust Effect paste on the chains and on the parts of the heart that look metal, so on the gears, for example, and a little bit in the darker parts that were in the shadows. This way it is going to be something between shabby and grungy. For those of you who love sparkly effects, here is a solution. If you'd like to add a bit of this, you can use glitter paste. And I'm using a product which is called crushed jewels. In fact, this is transparent gel medium with beautiful colors of glitter and a little bit of the little beads inside. And I put it on the wings of my moths and dragonfly wings. This way, this part of the composition is going to shine beautifully, and after drying, the gel turns transparent, so all you can see is just the glitter. Jewel Effect paste is the product I made for my Art Extravagance collection, and it comes in different colors. This one is basically transparent, so it's imitation of the crystal. And if you like, you can add your color inside as well. Last but not least, I was thinking I miss a little bit of a detail in the background, so I decided we're going to do tiny rusty splatters. I add the water to a small portion of the rust paste, and I dip my brush and I splatter tiny bits of the rust paste all the way around the composition. And of course, I dry it. So here it is. It is ready to put on the wall or on the shelf. It is permanent effect, so you don't need to worry about sealing because wax and acrylic paint are permanent after drying. There's a bit of glitter, there's a bit of rust and a bit of vintage touch as well. And in general, it's very shabby in the color palette. So I think that is something that you can try. And the best part is, you can do it in any color combination you like. The set of techniques is going to work for any color you like. I hope I was able to inspire you a bit. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if you'd like to know a little bit more about anything. I'm here to help. This video is a Facebook Live recording, so the quality is not perfect, but this was the best we could do, and we decided to edit it so it's going to be easier to watch on YouTube. I hope you like this idea. Finally, I would like to say a huge thank you to all of the patrons on Patreon. You guys make my artistic life possible, and I'm able to work for everybody and provide the inspiration to all of the Finnabair and mixed media fans. Thank you for making that possible. You are the best. Thank you so much for watching. Check my social media on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. And, well, have a wonderful creative time.